Thanks for tuning in to Married with Kids. I'm your host with the most. This is my wife.
Stop saying that.
So today's topic is, it's an unsolved mystery. I'm going to give this the sequence of events, present 4 different theories to try to explain this unsolved mystery. There's a person named Gloria Ramirez. Have you ever heard of her?
No.
This is exciting. This chick's name was Gloria Ramirez. She was 31 years old and she had cervical cancer. And it was February 19th, 1994, 8:15 p.m. She went to the emergency room at Riverside General Hospital. True story. The first thing they noticed is that her heart was beating too fast for her body and that her body was covered in an oily sheen.
Okay. Maybe she had a massage.
She had a fruity, garlicky smelling breath. This is when it starts getting crazy enough. But there's a nurse named Susan Kane, and she drew her blood. They noticed a chemical odor to her blood. A medical resident named Julie Gorchinsky noticed that her blood was a little weird. She noticed that the blood contained manila-colored particles.
Manila-colored particles.
In the blood.
I don't know what that means.
That's like
a manila folder?
Like that off-white color? Imagine little
I don't
specks
think manila is the name of that color.
That's manila. That's a color.
No, it isn't.
It's like brown and white makes manila.
Okay, brown and white does not make vanilla. That is completely inaccurate on so many different topics.
Those particles were also noted by the attending physician, Dr. Humberto Ochoa. And then nurse Susan Kane fainted. She stated that her face was burning, and then she was taken out on a gurney. The medical resident, Julie Gorchinsky, got lightheaded, and she fainted too. They said that she shook and experienced apnea, which means she would periodically stop breathing. And the respiratory therapist named Maureen Welch collapsed. She was quoted as saying, "I remember hearing someone scream, and then I woke up and I couldn't control the movement of my limbs." And then other staff members reported feeling sick, and then the hospital declared an internal emergency and they evacuated all the patients out into the parking lot, but a small skeleton crew stayed back to work on Gloria trying to save her life, and she wound up dying at 8:50 that night. So it was only 35 minutes and all that stuff happened. They wound up moving her body to an isolated anteroom, and nurse Sally Balderas began vomiting and feeling a burning sensation, just like Susan Kane did. And then Balderas was hospitalized for 10 days and also experienced apnea, the breathing stopping. And then Gorchinsky stayed in intensive care with vascular necrosis, which is when your bone tissue does not get enough blood, and then your bone tissue starts dying. Gorchinsky required crutches for months after it, and everyone that was in contact with her went out to the parking lot and removed all their clothes and placed them in plastic bags, and they were scared that there was toxic chemical exposure. 23 out of 37 of the ER staff were affected, and 5 of them were held overnight. And by that night, a couple hours later, a hazmat team arrived and searched for possible chemical contamination, and they didn't find anything. 6 days later, an autopsy was performed by the Riverside coroner, and they wore airtight suits, and they had a specially made airtight examining room, and they took samples of blood, tissue, and air from her body bag and found nothing conclusive to explain what happened. County officials were quoted as saying that the death was the most baffling in local history, and medical detectives from 10 local, state, and federal forensic departments investigated, and 2 months later, she was buried in Riverside. The official cause of her death was deemed cardiac dysrhythmia caused by kidney failure due to her cervical cancer. But the ER staff, all their illnesses, were never solved, and there is no theory proven.
Ooh. I mean, it sounds fake, but okay.
So many weird things happened.
Well, they were exposed to this lady, and she obviously had something. They breathed it in, and it got them. So it was obviously, untraceable. Somebody shredded manila folders, and was that manila paint made with lead? This is obnoxious to me. Figure it out. Figure out what's wrong with her. All these people are affected and it's unsolved. Go to that grave and light it on fire. Okay. No. Goodbye. LOL. Delete that. Sorry.
Theory number 1. California Department of Health and Human Services interviewed 34 ER staff, and they concluded that the ER staff experienced mass hysteria.
Oh, well, obviously.
No poison was found. No one in the ambulance was affected by her.
That's a real thing, though. Someone's like, oh my god, god. And then everybody's like, oh my god.
It's like those people that danced until they died. Did you hear about it? It was in France. They just danced until they died. Like Hocus Pocus.
Okay, sounds fake, but okay. And then if someone's like, oh my god, it's burning me, then I'd be like...
So there has to be a trigger.
That's legit. That's my vote.
They said the trigger is the strange odor, fruity garlic. One of the nurses, Gorchinsky,
She was drinking Bloody Marys.
she filed a $6 million lawsuit against the coroner and the hospital. Maureen Welch, the other lady, also disagreed with what they said.
Okay, they can disagree all they want, but keep your lawsuit to yourself.
Theory number 2.
Even if something else was also going on, you were still hysterical. It's a mass hysteria.
And didn't even
Yeah.
realize that she
Yeah.
screamed.
Yeah.
That's hysterics. Theory 2 is the Livermore Laboratory.
You just said laboratory!
So?
It's laboratory! Oh my gosh, are you British?
They gave what's called the most scientific explanation to date. They said that there is abnormally large amount of dimethyl sulfone in the autopsy, an anti-inflammatory gel. They said that she possibly used a whole bunch of this gel, and that explains the garlicky smell and the oily sheen.
Because it smells like garlic?
Yeah,
Gel.
I guess. That gel is only one oxygen atom away from being dimethyl sulfate, which is bad for you. And they said that the lab tested the gel with added oxygen at like you would get in an oxygen mask at the ER. And the result was an oversaturation of dimethyl sulfate and white crystals formed. And the crystals look similar to the manila particles found in the blood. But the problem is that dimethyl sulfone is harmless.
But not sulfate.
Well, it's theorized that dimethyl sulfone compound broke up due to the defibrillator shocks, and then it combined with the natural sulfate compounds that are in Gloria, and it created dimethyl sulfate, which is a strong chemical that can damage the heart, liver, and kidneys, causing paralysis, delirium, and convulsions. But dimethyl sulfate forming is impossible, according to the scientists. They couldn't prove anything. There was no successful simulation of them, and the head of the lab admits that it was just a theory. And the coroner released a statement in 1994 saying that it was the most likely cause. Theory 3 is the Ramirez family's opinion, said that there was hazardous conditions already present at the hospital. In 1991, there were 2 employees that received medical treatment after being exposed to a poison gas. And then in 1993, the year before this happened to Gloria, they said there was sewer gas that was found in the emergency room. And Maggie Ramirez, which is Gloria's sister, said, I honestly believe my sister may have lived if she never went into that emergency room that night.
They're looking for money. They want that money, honey.
They think that it's possibly a county cover-up.
A county cover-up. Get the sheriff on the phone.
Who's the deputy coroner, said that she didn't die of natural causes. But after the county official's autopsy, he changed his mind. And then there's an investigator named Stephanie Albright. She's the top investigator. She actually committed suicide 1 month into the investigation.
Leave the woman alone.
The syringe that was used to take her blood initially was accidentally thrown away.
All you need is the blood. Well, you're gonna save the dirty syringe?
Tom DeSantis was the Riverside County spokesperson, and he found nothing unusual and nothing harmful. So the Ramirez family filed a wrongful death and malpractice suit against Riverside County.
I bet they did.
Theory number 4, aliens. People think that she was abducted by aliens and it was some sort of foreign thing and it made everybody sick.
I think you would still find something. Well, inconclusive.
But
Sorry,
if you
the
listen-
oil was from a massage. The garlic, she was drinking her Bloody Marys. Garlic in those?
I don't think so.
Well, you can add it.
Not
But
those
like
doctors.
somebody needs to do their job and like solve the mystery. It's like pissing me off. I'm theory number 1, mass hysteria. I don't believe in doctors though.
Like, what about the guy with my heart? He was like, well, what do you want to do? You tell me, dude. It's open-ended because it's
What do you think? The toxic woman. Unenthused.
I did
I'm
a lot of
bored.
research for
Okay,
this.
well, no, it was good.
Then you come up with the next one.
No, unsolved mysteries. Cool. I just think it's obnoxious. Like, I think there's a medical reason for what happened and they're all being a little dramatic. Is
agree.
that rude?
I don't like when stuff's not explained. 'Cause it's 2019 now. You can't tell me in the last 30 years nothing's happened. Exhumer.
Ew.
Fruity garlic.
See ya!
Hey, if you liked our video, be sure to like and subscribe. We're going to come up with other ideas to talk to you about. Not just unsolved things and not just scary
Unsolved, he
movies.
said!
Not just unsolved things and not just scary movies and not whatever our first video was about, but all sorts of stuff.
He's creepy. He's a creep. No, that was not a good one at all, Kevin. I'm so mad at you.
It didn't record.